Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mushoku Tensei, a jobless reincarnation. Tonight we're on episode 2 of season 2. So, sounds like I'm sneezing. A 2. I'm losing my mind. What is happening on this last episode? Let me go, boom, this is the comments for episode 1 that we have on the screen. We're going to be a little bit of yapping in there. Then we'll do a little scroll through the last episode, see where the wind takes us, and then hit episode 2. We are drinking a mucho mango. Get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack. You already know how it goes. This is also going to be a comfy episode, okay? I got the blanket. In case, listen, it's a blizzard, okay? Isn't it snowy? It's snowy. I need to be warm, okay? Because we're in the cold place now. Sophie is what's her new name? Fitz? Fitz is literally crawling through a blizzard right now, okay? Not that we're with Fitz, we're with Rudy right now, but we gotta be nice and cozy. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So let's actually talk about the show a little bit. So I read all this. This was all I spoiler checked beforehand, so we're all good. I'm just gonna hit a little bing bing bong bong here and there. A lot of this is like of the line of thinking, or like of the kind of lines of questioning and the discussion that like with the sexual elements and such, which is something that I've like half of me is kind of like I'm over it, you know. The kind of big question that I've been like turning around in my head is, but why? It comes down to a but why from like a writing standpoint, not like an in-world standpoint. Because guess what? Like let me open up your mind a bit. This isn't that crazy. But let me just open the door. Like the world is written by a person, and that person's writing something for a reason. It could be to entertain, it could be to send some sort of message, it could be to explore some sort of theme, whatever. But the world is written by somebody, right? So if the world is written and it's just like, oh, let me like follow me here. I'm gonna write a fantasy world. All right, this fantasy world, everyone is tortured for their entire life. It's like, okay, cool. Like I decided to write that for some sort of reason. I don't know why I would write that, but cool. So it's like, okay, well, it's like if I have this torture world that I have written, and I'm like trying to analyze it, it's like, okay, but like I'm not a huge fan of all this torture. Like, why is everyone just getting tortured all the time? Like, it's kind of a random thing to do. You know, you would look at the guy that wrote it and be like, hey, why is all this torture just like everywhere, man? Like, what purpose is this doing? Is this just set dressing? Is this just for fun? Is this, you know, like these things are introduced in the story for a very specific reason, and especially with Mushoku Tensei, which constantly has these like sexual degeneracy things come up, and not even necessarily degeneracy, but just sexual elements are like literally constant in the show. I mean, I don't think we had any in this actually last episode, did we? Not really. We didn't really have anything in episode 1, but episode 0, I mean, it literally, the nobles that Fitz airdrops into are talking about, like, nipples, you know? And then freaking Princess whatever her name, Ariel, starts, like, trying to get all up in Sylphie's business. You know, like, that stuff is, like, all the way in the show. So, like, it leads me to question, but why? Like, why is this in the show? To what end is this accomplishing? To what is this adding to the show, you know? Because if it's not adding anything, then I would like to get it out. Because I think you kind of, if you're going to bring in some crazy things like this, then you kind of owe it to, like, do justice by them, right? Like, don't just throw in Torture World for fun. Like, what does that accomplish, you know? Like, that's kind of crazy to me. But most specific, Torture World's not even a perfect example, because I feel like especially with, like, sexual stuff, like sexual violence or sexual, like, with minors, like, that is such a controversial, crazy thing in, like, the modern world of which this is being written, that, like, just throwing it in for fun would trouble me, right? So what I start fishing for, right, where I start casting my line out is like, okay, is this exploring a theme? Is this exploring like a character relationship? How is it exploring this theme? How is it exploring this character relationship? Like, let me see some movement here. Let me see some consequences. Let me see some action. And to the degree that the show presents and has these elements, I feel like I'm not getting a ratio of actually getting some sort of result that I care about, that like is worthwhile to my experience here. You know, the amount of times that like Rudy like watches, I don't know, Eris and the cat people or the freaking animal people. It's like, oh, he watched some bathe, and then what's his name? Yes, the dad guy is like finds Rudius in his little box with his little peephole, and he's like, oh, if you lay a hand on my daughter, I'ma kill you. And Rudius goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And then it like ends. It's like, okay, what did that add to the scene? Like, I guess it showed that Rudy is a degenerate. I'm aware of that. We kind of are aware of that very, very frequently. But it's like, okay, sure. Like, let's say that's the only end. Then, like, what does Rudy being a degenerate do other than just, like, I don't know, make him more relatable to like a degenerate audience or whatever. I feel like it's not really like doing me much, you know? Like I almost have a crazy, and maybe it will do more later, and I'm praying. Because I mean, you could say like, oh wait, what are you yapping about, man? Eris and Rudy, like that was a huge deal, like them having sex, and it's like, kind of, but also like the reason Rudy was depressed is because Eris was gonna leave, and Eris was gonna leave whether she had sex or not. Like the amount of we focus so hard on like sex and degeneracy, and then it's just like it's almost like a tag onto the rest of the thing where it's like, okay, I thought we were gonna explore this a bit, so like why did we have all those scenes previously if it was just gonna kind of like they have sex, it's uncomfortable, and then she's gone, but the sex is almost like an addendum, you know what I'm saying? So I almost just like expect more exploration, right? Because I mean, I'm here for it. Like if we're gonna get in the weeds, then send me to the weeds. Like I will I will eat the weeds, man. I will go for it. But like to just it kind of goes into this, like to actually start trying to tie it to comments. Every challenging, problematic event in the story is presented bluntly with no overt judgment one way or the other. It's like, okay, but like why is this in the story? You know, it's not like it's not like the world. It's not physics. This isn't science. You know, it's not like I'm just looking at something that nobody had a part in creating and I'm trying to explore. Like somebody made this, right? Like, and they added like, okay, why? I have to write the next volume, you know? Let me write something entertaining, right? Let me explore like a character dynamic. Let me do something, right? For whatever purpose. But I'm not seeing enough of a purpose to make all this worth it. That is, I think, what it comes down to in a lot of ways. Where it's like, yeah, you can present all this stuff of like sex and degeneracy, but if you're not going to use it, then it felt like a waste of my time, you know? Especially for such a crazy thing, right? Like, we'll get into the weeds a little bit. Like, I don't know, like Roxy freaking cranking it in the hallway way back in episode 3. It's like, okay, so she kind of thirsty. Okay, like Roxy trying. I mean, at the time, I thought it was like, oh, this like young girl's like exploring her sexuality. Like, that could be a cool thing to follow up on if we're gonna bring it up, then like let's get some follow up. But then like, and then in retrospect, with her being way older than we thought, it's like, okay, I mean, she was horny because they are having sex. The end. You know what I mean? Or like, I guess you could say like, oh well, she was horny and like Lilia was horny because of the same thing, so it like adds to the fact that everyone was horny. It's like, okay, and I guess that had like some plot development with the whole like, yeah, the whole like Lilia Paul thing, like that actually mattered to a degree, you know. That didn't feel like it was gratuitous for no reason. It's like, oh no, like we're actually, that was a huge major plot point. But all the like other constant watching people bathe, sex, Rudy is degenerate mode, let me put some pennies on my face when I'm fighting these kidnappers, like blah, blah, blah. That just more is just kind of, it almost feels like it's just there to be there a little bit, right? And it's like, man, if you're going to throw it down, then throw it down. Like, I'm ready, dog. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm taking a sip of my drink. You have no idea how many takes I've done. Oh, come on. We got to focus. No sip of the drink until we actually get through some more. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at a little bit. I'm just yapping. I love the story is fiction and the people can change moral it contains. I would not want to live in that society. For the same reason I can get pumped about extreme violence or enjoying watching live action dramas that include torture, trafficking, and other ills. Yeah, it's like extreme violence can be just straight up mind-numbingly fun, you know? Or like, oh, like someone gets tortured, it's like a horrible, dramatic, tense scene. But a lot of the times the sexual stuff to me isn't doing anything other than like making me kind of uncomfortable and like, it's like, what are we adding? What are we adding by bringing this in? But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. And of course, you're very welcome for, you know, it's my pleasure. And I appreciate people that, like, I don't know, are nice. I appreciate nice people. That makes me happy. Also, if comments getting deleted, it could be YouTube auto flag or it could be spoiler. If you spoil something, then the mods will delete it. And that's usually checked out on the Discord. So, yeah. So those are what's either happening there. Always back up your comments, right? Write it in another document, port it in. I don't want people losing their essays because that's really sad. Yeah. I thought I was like okay with how they did the Rudy depression. It is a little bit of a, like, I would want more of it, but I kind of understand that like the anime has to cut things down and a lot of the inner thoughts are cut out. Which I feel like the inner thoughts, like that's the crazy thing, bro. Inner thoughts. It's like Rudy way back in episode whatever, like 6 or 7, when we were kind of talking about the degeneracy and stuff. somebody kind of posted some inner Rudy thoughts of the time where Rudy was like self-reflecting on being gross or whatever. I mean, I would have to look back in the comments of like episode 4, but at the time I was like, oh, sick. Like, Rudy's gonna be thinking about this stuff. We're gonna be untangling some what does 20 years of consuming degenerate pornography do to this guy's brain, and how does this environment, like, how's he gonna change? But it almost, like, has felt, in very specifically with the sexual elements, it's felt kind of stagnated to me. And you're gonna come in and you're gonna try to whip out, okay, but what about his relationship with Eris? You know the crazy thing about the relationship with Eris? Like, because you could say, like, oh, his moment of sex, like, this is what the argument I've heard is, like, oh, this moment of, like, the sex with Eris is, like, he was actually, like, seeing her as, like, someone he loved, as opposed to just somebody to get off on sexual gratification. On, like, one hand, that could be true. That wasn't the reason they started having, or that wasn't the reason he started having sex, right? He started by seeing her and her issues as, like, a thing, and it was like, okay, she might be hopeless. She might be in mourning. What's going on here, right? He was, like, trying to, like, kind of analyze how she was as a person, and then she said, give me your kittens. And then his schlonger took control, right? It's not like it wasn't a moment of them connecting. It was a moment of his horniness getting used because she was trying to get some action as a farewell present or whatever. Like, you know, so it's like, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I just want more of it, man. Like, if we're gonna lay down the cards, then let's get throwing. But yeah, okay. Bling, bling, bling. And I try to be open and analytical. So yeah, I appreciate people that can see that is an attempt that is made. Because I wouldn't say that the show's like a masterpiece, grade A, super plus plus plus. I think people do believe that, and I think there are like a lot of reasons that are fair to believe that. I'm not quite there yet. But I also don't think this is like something that needs to be purged off the surface of the earth, you know? Like, I'm not in either of the extreme camps, and so I appreciate that, like, you know, because people could try to throw you in a camp. Like, I'm not trying to get thrown in a camp. I'm between the two riot fields. I'm in the middle of a riot, and the riot shields and the protesters are banging against each other, and I'm just trying to squeeze through the middle, man. People talking about the green screen is so... I mean, me being out camping is so funny to me. Lack of music was a good move. I really liked that. I didn't even think about that until I read this comment. Keeping the window shut, not starting the fire, not shaking the hand. Very, very, very true. Even wearing shorts in the climate might be attributed to his mental state. Ooh, I didn't even think about that one. Interesting. So, though some people are just crazy, and people will wear shorts in like -7-degree weather for no reason. I don't. Some people are just built different. I also find it funny that normie D&D parties fighting for their lives. Yeah, I mean, they kind of are a basic normie D&D party a little bit. Suzanne's kind of base, though. And, like, Sarah, like, them two were getting some characterization. But yeah, so, I thought I appreciated the last episode. I thought last episode was a pretty positive episode. I have clarified that I think I'm pretty solid on this right now. The Grey Rats... Good old Roxy, Grey Rats, bringing his PC to the north just for the reaction. You know it. I'm following Ritz Crackers I'm calling Sophie Ritz Crackers now. I'm following Ritz Crackers into the Antarctica, bro. I didn't watch this because I would want someone to spoiler check before I watch somebody else's video because I don't trust random videos, you know. But I would be open to giving feedback on like other people's thoughts, though I wouldn't want other people like. I don't know. That's like a whole thing where it's like I wouldn't want to like super immerse in somebody else's thoughts because then I feel like I would just be puppeting them in like the reaction discussion format as opposed to like I wouldn't want to like I want to just keep my own opinions as much as I can, right? Because I think that's kind of the point of why I'm here. But yeah, like I would be open to that. I just would need someone to spoiler check it from like the mods or whatever. But I don't know. At some point, maybe after this season we can look at some other people's thoughts or something. Maybe I can start fights, you know? Hey you, random Mushoku Tensei creator. Okay, let's go. Okay. Okay. Light novel should be fun. So this is a point that I want to clarify. So the comment says, you seem concerned that Rudy is distanced from the audience. I think very specifically a response to, though I am guessing, I'm guessing to what this is a response to, but I think I was saying like, oh, like the whole rebirth aspect is like a distancing from the audience, right? I think that was the point. And so I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I can't help you there. Or Jenny from Forrest Gump. Like, the point I was trying to make with the distance from the audience thing is that it seems a lot of the show's message, exploration of themes, whatever, is on like, okay, we take degenerate, whatever, we take Earth deists and otaku, neat, whatever. We throw them into this world, let's see how they change, let's see how they grow or whatever. So the kind of baseline, almost instinctual, like built-in application you would make is, oh, what, like this character is a like an example from this group, so what happens to, or like how they act is a reflection of how that group would act, right? The otaku group. And so by like using or trying to focus, like, because a lot of people try to focus on the whole like, oh, Rudius, brain of a child, blah blah blah, body of a child, blah blah blah, and so like that's influencing his decisions. It's like, oh, well, that all of a sudden makes Rudius a lot less, like, if we're going to like use that as like a very large part of how he acts the way he acts, then it's like, oh, like that no longer becomes as much a stand-in, or like he no longer is as much a stand-in for an audience member, right? Or like a person from that group or whatnot. And it also, and I mean, that's kind of just how fantasy works, right? Like, I'm never going to understand what it's like to be a goblin, try as I might. But it does, I feel like there's a potential clash of themes of change mixed in with a like truly impossible situation that Rudy's in, where it's like, okay, like people can change, but this is such a unique situation with Rudy, if we're going to like full send a lot of those ideas, that it's like, what is it even saying about like the human, like a human anymore, right? If it's this unique of a human. That's not even necessarily a bad thing, that's just kind of the point that I think I was more so trying to make. Where, yeah, I mean, distance, right? It doesn't mean that they're completely divorced. Like, you can still use Rudy in a lot of ways, but it changes the dynamic between Rudy and, like, how he can be used in that way. That's all. Confirm that this thing isn't true. Heard, gotcha. Rudius casts Quagmire giggity derogatory. I don't know what you're smoking. That just line is crazy. So yeah, this thing of like these questions of, should Rudy start trying to do something about all the things that are morally wrong in our world? Should he be trying to single-handedly abolish polygamy, slavery, monarchy, etc.? Should he try to live the world's morals for himself, regardless of what the world is like? For who? Because he knows it's wrong, according to who? A world he no longer lives in? So, okay. My analogy. I will try to use an analogy here. Let me start with like what I'm trying to say. I don't think I was, like, I can see where you're kind of going, but I'm not even trying to send it there, right? That's not where I'm trying to take it. I'm not trying to say that, like, Rudy needs to come in and abolish slavery or bring the enlightened democracy to the world or whatever, right? That's not what the show's trying to do. That's not what he's trying to do or whatever, right? But I would expect for, let's say, slavery, because I think out of these three, slavery is the easiest to kind of, like, point and be like, okay, this is, like, pretty problematic. Because you can debate about the other two, and I'm not going to get into that, but about, you know, whatever. But like slavery, right? Like, if there is a lot of slavery in the world, which we've seen a little bit of, I don't know, just the freaking, what was that girl's name? Night-Eyed Hawk is like an assassin slave, I think, which is kind of a weird thing. And then like the maids of the family of, like, you know, where the animal people maids, like, could have been kind of slave like, and we've seen some human trafficking kind of thing. But it's like, okay, so if Rudy walks up to a slave trader and is like, oh, slavery's acceptable in the world, I'll have 3, then I would be like, Rudy, that's really bad, right? Like, I'm not expecting him to fix things and that he has some sort of crazy moral obligation to, like, make this fantasy world just like our own world. But if he were to partake in things that our world, or the world Rudius is from, past life Rudius, if he were to, like, partake in all these things that have a lot of, like, societal shame in the previous world, but it's like, oh, I'm freed from that, now I can just completely let myself go, then I would see that as like a negative thing, right? Where it's, well, I would see that as him, like, degenerating and being a worse person, right? Which could be saying something about how, like, it could be having a really interesting statement on, like, moral relativity and blah blah blah, and how maybe people are monsters that are only held into shape by society or something, blah blah blah. But yeah, like just very specifically, like, as I kind of said, if he literally walked up to a slave trader and it was like, oh yeah, slavery's fine in this world, then I'll have some slaves. Then it'd be like, okay, Rudy, that's, you know why slavery is frowned upon in the past world, right? You know, like, that's usually not viewed as a good thing in the past world for XYZ. I don't care to have to explain why slavery is morally bad. But it's like, if he accepts that slavery was morally bad back then, but then, and so comes in here and then starts, like, partaking in slavery and, like, lets go of all those morals because now it's like, oh, then the world's fine. Like, the world's fine with it, then I'm fine with it. Then I would be like, okay, Rudy, like, you've just, like, acquiesced. Like, you've just kind of, like, that would be, I would see that as degenerating. And my analogy I would give, would be like, if I'm in, I don't know, if I'm raised in one part of the world now where it has like some like moral codes or whatever, and it's like let me say like this, because why not go into Age of Consent, because it's Mushoku Tensei, who can but if it was like, oh, the age of consent where I live is 18, right? I feel like that's the highest it usually goes, right? The age of consent where I live is 18, and I'm a 30-year-old man, and I really like them young. Let me move somewhere where the age of consent is like 12, and then I get to partake in that thing. It's like, okay, I would see that as you doing a bad thing, right? Like, you are purposefully putting yourself in an environment where, like, you have, like, you're not as societally shamed for something that you were raised to believe is morally wrong, and there is good justification for that. It's almost like that kind of example, right? Where it's not, like, to what degree you want to admonish or people and, like, talk down on people for not fixing the rest of the world. It's like, yeah, like, I can understand that. Like, just because you're born in the world doesn't mean that you have to fix every single part of it. That's freaking hard and impossible. But if you were to, like, take advantage of parts of the world with different moral structures to just find the one where you can be the most degenerate, then it's like, okay, you have no internal morals and you're like being a little slippery snake. And I would view that as negative behavior, right? So to apply to Mushoku Tensei, if he were to jump in this new world and then be like, oh, all the things about morality I know, let's get rid of them. Even if they are based in a lot of, like, human rights stuff that is usually, like, that has a lot of founding and, like, you can have a lot of discussion about. If he just let go of it all, and then it was like, the nobles here can do very horrible sexual things to people, hey, guess it's my time to shine. Like, that would be bad. And he doesn't even do that, right? But, he doesn't get worse, but he doesn't, I don't know. I don't even care. Rudy, go do whatever you want. Pop off, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of what I would want to say there, I guess. And then this is I thought an interesting point of, like, moral relativism. I think you even say that, right? Who are to say that our current moral ideas and world order are in any way, shape, or form better or worse than any other set of ideas or worlds? Everyone has lived in the past, thought the same thing, that their way was the best way, and everything before their time was simply barbaric and filthy. I agree with this. I mean, yeah, a lot of, like, people of the past, you know, in ancient empires or whatever, a lot of them had a lot of base things to say, right? And I had a lot of crazy, like, moral ideas that's like, oh, dang, like, our society can learn from that. Like, that's insane. I agree with you there. I'm already there. But they also, you go back in time, it's like, oh, wow, like, I don't know, I just think of Athens, Greece, right? Where it's like, oh, dang, y'all had a lot of really cool things going on. Like, y'all got democracy, y'all got XYZ, like, pop off. But then it's like, oh, wait a second, no such thing as women's rights, no such things as slavery is, like, a thing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they, like, but they still have their things that we don't like. And that's why it requires, like, there is a navigation required there of, okay, sometimes they did it better, I would agree. Sometimes they did it a lot worse. That's fair. Let's try to take the best and learn what we can. Cause yeah, like, true. I mean, very, very true. But when it comes to my very, very specific, like, grievances or whatever you want to call them with the show, the disagreements or whatever we're talking about, whatever we want to call whatever we're talking about, when it comes to those very specifically, I'm pretty confident in, like, the Rudius world, this new world that he's in that a lot of their things are problematic. I'm pretty confident in that. And I think even a lot of the people in the world are pretty happy with that. So, but then with Rudy coming in, it's like that where Rudy coming in with the umbilical whatever of the audience member, that's where it starts to get really weird to me. But I've talked about that a million times. But I do think that's a very interesting point to bring in. And I can totally see where you're going with that. Like, there are, like, if we can see like a healthy dynamic of I don't know, like polygamy or monarchy or whatever, if we can see these like explored well, then it's like, oh dang, like maybe we can try to like bring that into modern society, or like maybe it's something there, blah blah blah. Of which like I'm so down, you know? But that doesn't mean that always is successful, or there are times where it's like, oh, try to convince me that slavery is good, show. Like, I don't think you're going to have much luck. Or try to convince me that this, like, level of sexual degeneracy or blah, blah, blah. Try to convince me that that is good or that is acceptable. Like, you know, it's a big pill to try to do, which then requires a lot of exploration, which I feel like is sometimes not really done to the degree that I would want it to. I guess. Dude, this show is starting to weigh on my shoulder. Come on, the weight. Push it off. Take it loosey-goosey. But yeah, decided to record at the Grid Outdoors. You know it. Appreciate you, user YH1BK5. Okay. This is true. I didn't even think about this. This is actually sick. Because at Rudy's hands, they were like all messed up. It was because of the fire spell. Makes sense. Good stuff. This here of like, I appreciate the clarification of like, okay, we can't judge anime by their educational values when they are not meant for that purpose. I won't judge a vegan restaurant based on how good the meat is. If I want meat, I'll go to a straight house. You know what I mean? Different purposes. Totally, yeah, that's totally fair. It just depends, like, okay, then what purpose are these things here for, right? Because I do think that there are some messages of the show. I think we can all agree on that. I think there's some good stuff in here about that. And so we can, like, judge those or whatever. But it's like, okay, what purpose is there with all of the constant sexual stuff, right? What is that serving to the story? How is that fleshing out character dynamics? How is that exploring any themes? How is that interesting or intellectually challenging or just entertaining? How is it doing these things? Is it successful in these things? That's the question, right? And it doesn't need to educate, though it can, right? It can give takes. But I'm not. I guess that's the big question I've been repeating. Like, what's the point, right? And I would like to hear if people have any like points. It's like, oh well, this is what I think these scenes accomplish. Like, hit me with them. And I think there are some sexual themes, like the scenes, like Lily and Paul. I mean, there's very clear purpose there that I'm like down with, you know. But then like, I don't know, like what consequence was there in Rudy molesting Eris? It's like, oh, he's horny for her, and I guess that like kind of like changes their dynamic a little bit, but so that they then do other stuff down the line. Like, that's where I'm starting to get like confused about why it's there. I mean, because you could just straight up say to appeal more to the anime degenerate, whatever you want to say, audience, and it's like, okay, sure, but I don't like that. I don't know. That's kind of the question. Nobody usually cares about no anime's message as far as I know and see, but Mushoku for some reason has to have one. I think it's because it's trying to have one in a lot of ways. Like it's taking these scenes seriously. They're not playing off. They're like playing off some of the sexual things as gags, and then some of them are plot developments, and then some of them are like ultra focused on, like the Eris Rudy scene is like, that has such a focus and it has such a energy to it with like the music, and it's coming out of this moment of trauma, and it's like all these crazy things are going on, like the plot is putting a magnifying glass on that, like the story is putting a magnifying glass on that moment, and like Rudy even throws out a few interesting questions of like, is she just feeling hopeless, like should I be doing this? But then once it happens, like we kind of just let go of it, where it's like, no, keep going, like we could have had something there, like we could have explored something there, so to not do it feels like a waste. That's more what I'm trying to say. Well, this was a nice chunky lad. What am I talking about? This was like, right here. What makes Mushoku Tensei so good is indeed, this is the comment, is indeed that the main concern is telling the story the way it was meant to be told, rather than compromise it for optics and politics to satisfy people's egos or whatnot. And then this other part of, but the point of the story should be to tell the story it is meant to tell and do it as well as you are capable. The main point should never be to teach morals, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, okay, what is the story, like what is it meant to tell? And how is what is meant to tell decided? Where does the meant to tell come from, you know? Because, I mean, I think you can have a story that's meant to tell morals, and it's a good story. I don't like the never. I don't think it has to. I would cut out never and say, shouldn't have to be to preach morals. That's how I would adjust that for me personally, right? And such. But it's like it's these are here for reasons. I think we can agree on that, right? That the things in the show are here for reasons. There was a person that sat down and they said, I want this to be this, like this is the story that's meant to be told. And there is, I think, a really cool element of storytelling that becomes like emergent, and that's kind of the part of creativity, that's the part of imagination, where you breathe this life into these characters, into this world, and then it starts to kind of spin out of your hands and do its own thing. And I think that's really sick. That can be really, really cool. And so if that's kind of what you mean, where it's like, oh, like you throw out these characters and then they evolve and then like crazy things happen, and that's the fun of it. And I can kind of see what you mean there, and I appreciate that. But like even then, like it's not like you can have like the elements will always continue to be added, right? Like you can have your Eris and your Rudy adventuring and in their dynamic kind of evolve almost out of the author's hands and like, you know, blossom and emerge and do its thing and like carry itself forward. But guess what? Turning point 2 still has to happen, right? Or like that stuff will come in and hit them, right? Like the author will come in and say, okay, let me throw a new obstacle at them. Let me hit them with a new thing. Let me kidnap Rudy. Let me Pax, let me man God, right? Like new elements are thrown in all the time. So it's not like that's not 100% like a thing, right? The world doesn't fully navigate on its own. It's not on autopilot, though I think that can be a cool element. But yeah, like what makes Mushoku Tensei good is the main concern is telling the story the way it's meant to be told. I almost feel like that's like almost like begging the question a little bit. So it's like, what is it? How is it meant to be told? You know, because I guess that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, what is the point of this? Like, what is the meant here? I'm kind of clashing with the meant maybe. Yeah, and you wouldn't want it to like compromise storytelling for optics. Like I totally get that. You don't. It's like you don't even have to do anything that crazy, you know. Like I feel like an example I could try to give is Pax kidnaps Rudy and then says, I'm gonna R-word Roxy, and then I'm gonna cut off your head and I'm gonna do it again as despair fills her face. He starts just going off, right? And instead of that being like a moment that's taken with like a seriousness from Rudy, or is like kind of leads to anything, Rudy just hits him with a kind of stare, and then the door gets shut, and then the freaking Zenoba walks down the staircase. You know, like that didn't actually do anything. So why was it there? I mean, was it there to make us hate Pax more? Was it there because Pax is just gross? And it's like, okay, sure, Pax is just gross, but he was written to be gross. Like he was introduced as gross, and then he kept being gross, and then nobody's like responding to the grossness very much, other than I guess nobles are gross. But it's like, okay, but like, how does Rudy respond to this thing? How does Rudy respond to Pax yapping about all this nonsense? I mean, I'm looking for like that's my girl Roxy. I'm kind of upset about that. You know, it doesn't have to be, that was a morally wrong thing you said. But like I feel like you could so easily have a moment of, and I think this would like fit with the story, you know, like, or with the characters. Like I don't think this would be compromising. But I feel like you could so easily have a moment of Rudy realizing like, oh, he is in the same way that I have done previously, extremely sexualizing someone. But now it's someone that I care about. It's Roxy. Roxy has helped me out. So if he were to feel like a sort of like any sort of like negative emotion or anger there of like, oh, he's talking really sexually crude about somebody I care about. Maybe I don't like that he's talking sexually crude in this way. Maybe I should do something about that. And it's not like he can do much about it, but like he literally just default deadpans the guy, right? Then that's a statement of like, oh, he can see like it, like that would lead to a deeper understanding of maybe if Rudy like, oh, maybe if I hardcore sexualize somebody, then that could be like bad, and I would be like treating them worse in the same way that Pax was doing that to Roxy, and I didn't like that, you know. But instead of like doing anything with that moment, Rudy just kind of hits him with a freaking default Roblox stare. And then Zenoba walks down the staircase and they start bonding over the Roxy figurine, you know? It's like we're almost like going just back to sexualizing Roxy, you know? So it's like, I feel like you could do things. I feel like we could make things happen. Instead of things just kind of, you know, showing up and then they kind of spin themselves out. Like, no, like, Rudy, like, take a bit of an initiative, like, make some, be a bit more active, And that's an entire thing I could get into of, like, Rudy's passivity, or, like, an element of passivity, or just, like, purely reactivity in a story. Because I do think the best protagonists, or, like, the best characters, bar none, are active. I think that's the best. The best is hard to say, but most good characters are usually pretty active, or at least reactive in a way that's like telling of who they are. And I could get into that. That's something I want to like think about more before I start yapping about though. But yeah, that's my point being that I think the show could explore these themes without compromising its story. And I think by exploring these themes more, it would add to the story, as opposed to just these things kind of being here as like a set dressing in some cases, where it's just like, oh, the nobles are all perverted. It's like, okay, but and what are we doing with this? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the and. And not even in a way to like to validate what I think, right? Like you don't have to explore it in the specific way I'm looking. I just feel like that you owe it to the themes to explore them if you're gonna bring them in, instead of just using them for entertainment value. And I'd say that to any story, And it's being applied to Mushoku most specifically because it does that with other themes, and I almost like feel like it was setting itself up to do something with these, where I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, fizzled or something, but it could very well be, and I'm hoping for that we will get more of that going forward, and that this is just kind of like, we'll deal with it when it comes. In which case, like, hey, I'm ready, Mushoku. Hey, you let me know. Ring up my line. Bring. The ponderings on where the best stories come from is an interesting question. I think it's so varied for the person that I would have a hard time saying like they come from X or Y, because I feel like they can come from so many different places. But overall, I'm a huge fan of inspiration and passion, so I kind of get that. And coming in with the idea of like, I want a specific message. I'm more of a like, I want like an exploration, right? Like, I don't want to come in with the finale already decided and in that kind of way, but more like, oh, let's actually toy with this and mess with this and explore perspectives, that kind of thing. But yeah. So, also this kind of thing of like, the core of Mushoku Tensei is a person having a second chance at living a fulfilling life to experience all the things he missed out on and wish he hadn't for himself. That starts to get like, for himself, I don't even know if I can put words into how I feel about that. I feel like there is like a element that I'm worried about, though I think it's more anime. It might be more anime only, of it just being like Rudy's just a super talented magician. He's probably the best or the most prodigious magic caster, or at least top 5 of like all time in this world. And then he like grows up and like Suzanne walks into his life at like a perfect moment, like I feel like a lot of the times he just kind of gets the right thing to happen to him, like he gets a lot of like slack in a lot of ways. But then he also gets Orsted busting his chest open, but then he also immediately after doesn't really pay for that mistake because he gets revived, and then but then you can say, oh, but the trauma, blah blah blah. But I don't know, I feel like it's very internal, and I would want it to be a little more dynamic, I guess. Like the kind of idea of like, if Rudy messes up in life, then I would like people to call him out on that, not because that, and an example of that happening in a way I liked, as I've said before, is the Tufts happen, Rudy screws up, the kid gets killed, the bird kid, and then Rudy George's like, brother, what was up with that, right? That I liked a lot, because it's like, okay, look at this is dynamic, this is movement happening, right? But if it's instead just like, almost like more of like a playground where it's like, oh, like Rudy is OP, he's the guy, he can do his thing, and at the end of the day, it's for Rudy, that mentality, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not sure exactly why I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know. I have to think about that more. And I am being reductive. I think I am being reductive by saying that. Like, that's not what Mushoku Tensei is necessarily doing. I get that feeling every once in a while from the anime because a lot of the other characters' perspectives are cut out. But I am understanding that is, I think, like a lot of that feeling for me is because those other perspectives are cut out, but they're there. So I don't say that as like a critique super hard. Necessarily. I don't know. I have to think more on that. But yeah, and I'm not expecting him to like. I wouldn't want the story to just to like be like, oh, let me, like power. It's like it's like some people say this is a power fantasy or like a wish fulfillment story or whatever. Like I wouldn't want a story that's like a moral power fantasy where you come in and are like, oh, look at this world. My morals are way better than you. And look at my morals go. Like that would be cringe too. Like I can accept that. Yeah, because and that kind of thing. It's just I think there's a middle ground that can be found a lot stronger. ReZero Mushoku Tensei is an interesting kind of comparison, and this is kind of what I was talking about of like, the gross acts being portrayed as gags, where then it's like, okay, but why are we doing this? You know, that's kind of my thing. This I thought was an interesting thing of like, to be fair, most bad acts go unpunished in the real world, and writing them this way makes the story a lot more realistic. Just because someone does something bad doesn't mean that there is some cosmic god of karma that will smack you. Oh, I agree 1,000,000%. The story itself, I feel like is like could very well explore these things more, and then isn't, and that's what saddens me. Not that, I've said that like 1,000,000 times. Why would characters in the world punish Rudy? He has no ability. On top of that, he is crazy powerful. On top of that, it's a medieval fantasy times with far worse things happening than just minor perviness. I would argue it would make the story actively worse if all these characters did try to stop him or teach him some sort of lesson, as that would go against all the world building up to this point. Just like, because like, you wouldn't want to compromise the world building. It's just, by like doing nothing, I'm sad about. Doing something, I'm happy about. I want more to be done. I think that's the point. And I had the crazy thought the other day. What if I'm on my Paul arc, but because somebody said you're on your Paul arc with Rudy. What if I'm not? What if I'm on my Paul arc not with Rudy, but with Mushoku Tensei? Consider the following. Roxy ending. I am believing in the Roxy ending. Turning point 4. I don't even know what that means. Okay, that's gonna be like 10 million years in the future. No. Denied. Roxy ending. No, the real ending is freaking the gods are gonna hoe us, and we're not gonna be ready for it because we're too busy dealing with stuff that doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. This show's gonna kill me. Let's look at the last episode. Oh yeah, I was looking at the PAX episode earlier. Just like look at the way Rudy looks at him. Like this, Rudy, hey buddy, can we do something with this? Right? He's just like, that's unfortunate. Can we do something? Come on, man! Be more active as a protagonist, as a person, you know? He just kind of, I don't know. That's kind of one of the things where it's like things just kind of happen to people, where, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge. What I would need to do before I make any claims there is go back through and see when has Rudy been active, when have things happened to Rudy, you know? Like, or like when have characters been active as opposed to just things happen to them and they respond. Because I find, hey, look, it's the Holy Relic. Because I like active protagonists that make choices. Like a good example of like a choice being made is like, oh, I see a kid being bullied. I go out of my way to help. We all like that scene, right? Because it's like, oh, look, that tells him taking this purposeful action tells us about his character and his opinion on bullying, which makes a lot of sense and tells us a lot based on his backstory with bullying. So that's like a good character moment, right? That's a good exploration of his character. And other, so we get things like that, and that's, I think, good. But then we have like the PAX episode, that's Goblin Slayer, where things just kind of happen, and then Rudy just kind of looks at him, like, Rudy just kind of does whatever Man God tells him to, which doesn't tell us anything about Rudy's character other than that he trusts Man God. And just kind of floats, right? He's just kind of floating with the wind current a bit, at least in this very specific arc, right? He enters because he's told to enter. He falls because the thing pulls. He looks up at Pax saying all these things, he keeps all his thoughts like internally, like makes kind of a few quips and points, but like that doesn't lead anywhere or do anything. The door shuts. Next episode, Zenoba walks in, solves the situation for us, and then Zenoba's out of the picture. So like this arc, it solved the Lilia Aisha thing, so I guess that's something, though that wasn't really because Rudy did anything, it's just because Man God threw him there, told him what to do, and then he did it, and then also Zenoba clutched it all out. So like that wasn't even something that I'm like, yay, good job, Rudy, we can feel accomplished, because kind of just was handed to him a bit. And so it does that, I guess, and then introduces Zenoba, gives us a little more information on this part of the world, which is cool, but it doesn't actually. Eris, Rui Jerd are just completely cut out, and then Rudy doesn't really do anything, right? Like Zenoba comes in with the figurine in hand. How does this go again? I am Zenoba. It's your boy Rudy. Oh, because he had the thing on his person, was it? He had the Rui one on his person. And he was like, I must now question you on this thing. Yeah, where did you get this? That's right. But yeah, like that passivity, doesn't really tell us much about Rudy and doesn't show any like character growth or development or like any, really much there. So I like it when Rudy's like doing things, making moves. I like when any character's doing things, making moves. Paul suffering because he's pushing himself to save his family tells us so much about his drive for family. I'm sick of yapping. I'm tired of it. Suzanne, you're cool. Random girl, Sarah, you're cool. Stop being a dick. You're like kind of like Eris. Maybe there can be some healing done there. Or things can get worse. Who cares? We'll just see what happens. Rudy, burning the hair, based. I'm here for it. Killing bears, good. Animal control. Next episode. Episode 2. I'm gonna watch it now. What is the song? I'm gonna pop some tags. It's I'm gonna watch the show. Did you like that? No, I didn't like it either. Okay, let's watch episode 2. Let's get the energy going, okay? No. Put down the drink. We're gonna do a cozy up. We're gonna do a nice cozy up, okay? I might need to fast. I might need to have a Mushoku Tensei fast. Not like that I'm like gonna just stop watching, but like, I don't know. I need to mental cleanse. This is me mental cleansing. All right, episode 2. Let's get this going. In a 3, a 2, a 1. Bam! You going on a run, Rudy? Okay. A little bit of jogging. Tindalos Baskerville? What is that? Did you name your boots? Your knees? You named your knees? Oh, time skip. Okay, ready! Spread my name far and wide. Dang, Rudy. Man's on his grind set. Bro, he got broken up with and now he's exercising. That's so funny. Okay, dude. Is that the holy relic? That's so crazy to me. But okay. Like, you got a shrine for it? Why? Like, did you buy that or did you build that? Yo, what's good? Hey, you tell him, Steps Leader. You do your thing. I thought he was about to swing on Rudy. I thought he was about to get mad at Rudy for no reason. Are you still partying with your same group of adventurers with our counter arrow? Quack quack. You're known as Quagmire. But you're known as Quagmire. You're not known as Rudius Great. I mean, that's good, but why Quag? Where did Quag? Okay. It's sad that Quagmire got the dub instead of Rudius Grey Rat, but it is what it is, I suppose. Hello, farmer, snowplower. His job is to snowplow. Rudius, just throw some wind magic at this. Or actually, no. This is an exercise chance. Got to build up them base stats. I get it. I get it. What are you doing? Are you putting magic, like, straight into that thing? Oh, you're, like, warming everything. Oh, there you go. Yeah, warm it up. Okay, random kids. What was that, like, dance routine? Oh, Rudius will help you up. Okay. Quit your yapping. Quit your yapping. Say thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Community man. Oh, it's Sarah. What's up, Sarah? Community man Rudius. Sarah, what you watching for? Sarah, what you watching for? What was that? Are we like friends now? Oh, it's an, okay. Bet invitation. Okay, good. That I'm glad that that's been like continued. Oh, yeah, that's fair. Okay, Sarah. Dude, the green guy kills me. I don't know why. His character design is so funny to me. Like, I don't know. I want to just make fun of him so bad. Uh, he's just... Oh, wait, info. The first human-demon war. This is a crazy locale. Yeah, wow. Definitely worth the time. Sarah, shut up. It's a cool view. Enjoy it. That's fine. Oh, she cares. No, she cares. You saw that. She cares. What, are you into architecture or something? Whoa, she's falling. Grab her. Good move. Good move. I think his hands are magnetically attracted to breasts. You think this is true? Imagine that he has a curse. He has a curse because of the repeated actions. That he actually has a, you know, just in the, like with Laplace. Laplace put magnetism hands on him. They, okay. What I, we're about to get jumped. What's going on here? Kirishirika! It's her! She's her! Yeah, look at her go. That's crazy. That's good. I like that. That's a fun, like, world building thing to see. They're coming. They're coming. Is there like a secret little area behind? They have a little lair behind the statue. That's pretty cool. Dang. I like these little snowdrakes. What? Hey, guys! What happened? What happened? Did they all get away? Is that the kind of point? Oh, they're still there. I was about to say, where are y'all at? Oh, just repositioning? Okay. That's, what, you expect me to solo all these guys? Like, nah. They're good. Yes, Suzanne! Yes, Suzanne! Yeah, what's good, Ben? Why are we blushing at each other? There's a combat. Yeah, exactly. Whoa, hello? Whomst? Oh, this guy. Oh, he was talking about this at the cat tavern. Good point. I forgot. Dang! You're kind of fun. Wow, there's a lot of these guys. What's good with y'all? Hey, what's good with y'all? This guy's about to be such a dick. Dog. Alright. Time to kill him. Rudy's just forgot. Oh, I forgot. Okay, yeah. Hey, what a nice lad. Yeah, Timothy took that on the chin. Oh, Timothy rolling persuasion. Holy. Mmm. Yeah, maybe start talking before you start swinging, but I... Timothy knows how it goes. Okay, I appreciate that. That's nice. Dang, Timothy! Timothy, I need to get a Timothy ballot. I'm gonna vote for Timothy for president. She said, "Come to the party. Come to the party." They're sitting next to each other, blushing, and they're getting drunk. I think you can fill in the gaps. We'll see. Or he'll probably get flashbacks and then not do anything, low-key, right? We'll see. She is so hard to work with, bro. She sucks. Oh, called out. Yes, Suzanne. What are you head patting him for? Oh, you're making him look away. I get it. I was about to say. Yes, Suzanne. Dude, Suzanne and Timothy are based. I love those two. Um. Oh, they the strongest? I was about to say he's the spitting image of Paul. No, literally. Yeah, you and me both, Rudy. You and me both on the same wave. Like, look at them sauntering, bro. Dude, an entire animator was in the dungeon for like 7 months animating their walk. That's crazy. See all this? Look how fluid. You're gonna hit on Suzanne? This is definitely younger. This is Paul. This is Paul's reincarnation. Paul died off camera. Dude, Sarah knows. Yeah. Look at him. He's even placating here. That's so funny. Yeah. Rudy Quagmire, sorry. Yeah, why are you hitting him with that look? Wait, okay, what? Huh? Mmm. This guy's an angry junk. Yeah, Soul. Holy crap, calm down. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's shaking. He feels like he's getting one-upped by Rudy. Damn. Rudy really struggling to keep that grin up. Yeah, what are you about to say, huh? Nothing? Why'd you walk back in? You're just projecting, dog. Calm down. Look at the squad pulling up. What's wrong? Whoa, huh? To what? The fuck? Huh? No. What? Wait, Mimir was the guy I was just making fun of, the green hair? Okay, we gotta go find Sarah, I guess. Bro, y'all got jumped by snow buffalo and Mimir got trampled to death? That's obviously not good. You're just gonna solo this, man? Like, yeah, I was about to say, can you just like... I guess he's popping off. What does that do? How is that temporary? Holy crap! What a god! Yeah, now he's just gonna stew. Mmm. You gotta look for arrows. I like this self-analysis, Rudy. Oh, wow. Yeah, holy crap. Is this their lair? He's looking for her bones. We about... Who? Damn. Hey, sorry that I said your green hair looked silly. My fault. That's her, dude. That's her earring. Hello? 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 An Ent. Why is an Ent killing us? Is this Sarah in an Ent garden? Okay, Sarah's been kidnapped by an Ent. I mean, I didn't think she was dead for a half a second, bro. You're not gonna ooh, the animation! You're not convincing me Sarah's dead. What is this creature? What? It's got magic, too. It's spitting all this ice at him. Also, can we... Okay, good. What is that thing? Good morning. Hey. Aww. Okay, got away from the Ent. Holy. Bro, clutch Ent, not even gonna lie. Cause would she have... Oh, her clothes are wet. Her clothes are wet. Bro, Rudius's eyes are telling so much truth right now. That's crazy. Whoa, wait. What are those? Are those fresh? No, they were. Okay. Just got a bit scraped up, that's all, yeah. He went out in the blizzard to save you. With the snow bison. I got bad news. Yeah. She got something to say. Whoa! Close, close, close. Okay, Sarah. Yeah, there it is. Aww. Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. She was real with them. She was genuine. Yeah. Aw. I got kidnapped by a tree. Because he's a real one. Yeah. He is, when he's in his element, like, he can handle it up, you know? You saw the way the bison were just coming at him, he just no-look speared him, right? So, but yeah. Timothy, what's good? Hey, that's my boy Timothy. You know it, bro. Yeah. Yeah. Good relationship moving forward. Clutch. Though I don't know, it's interesting. We like, we got a good couple months for Rudius to like work through some stuff, do some exercise, right? But I feel like there's still We keep seeing it brewing. I mean, he name dropped Eris this episode, you know? So it's like, that's sweet. It's like, we're still struggling there. Okay, Sarah. What'd you just say? What'd you just say? I don't lip read. Whoa, oh, okay. That was him casting a spell. Bro, never have Sarah in your room. Sarah's gonna be like, yo, what's in this cabinet? Opens it up. Yeah. Oh, I don't even need to see the next episode. No, that was a cozy little episode. I felt cozy. Rip Mimir. I'm so sorry, Mimir. I'm literally, like, he looks like a friend of Ruijerd, and then he got murdered, and I'm so sorry, and you have no idea. When when Rudius was, like, tying up his little hair bundle, it was bad. I was struggling when he was doing that. I really was, and I would like to formally apologize for my treatment of Mimir. I'm glad that I bit my tongue and didn't, like, start going into him, because that would have looked really bad. This guy's kind of a dick. What was his name? Sol? S-O-W, or S-O-L? S-O-W, yeah, that's how you spell Sol. Yeah, younger Paul. It's crazy. He literally, I mean, okay. On one hand, he's a complete dick, and, like, you know, whatever. On the other hand, if I ever see a kid giving me this look across a table, I'm saying the same thing. Rudius looks like a little devil here. Like, look at his little smirk. Quagmire. Now it is interesting though, because Rudius does kind of have that, like, I don't know, he never really, he does, I don't know, I kind of empathize, like, I kind of see where Sol's coming from. Obviously not okay for him to say any of this. He's obviously a dick, right? Like, I don't know what is going on about, but, like, there is a semblance of truth in it, because, like, Rudius does always kind of have, like, such a mask up, you know? Like, that grin and that voice. Like, look, he literally grins in response. It's like kind of like Timothy, where it's like, let me just keep turning the other cheek, you know? Like that. Like, Rudius does do that. Poor kid, bro. Look at the way that he just falls into this, like, sad thing as he's just getting torn into. He's just like, ah, oh, jeez. But yeah, I mean, I think this guy just feels one-upped, because Rudius is out here, like, I mean, he even said, we need money to live, and you're, like, refusing money, trying to look good, you know, you're, like, one-upping my reputation, basically, and then you're standing here being all, like, smiley and perfect. Yeah, I mean, I get that sentiment, but also, like, you obviously are a dick, and you're not making yourself look any better by tearing into him, especially if he's beloved. Like, him being beloved, even if you think that it's a fake thing that he's, like, putting out into the world for some reason, and that he's trying to be, like, all woe is me through being all, like, charitable or whatnot, like, that's a you problem with your own perspective. Like, that's something you gotta deal with, Saul. Like, I can kind of get the feeling, because, I mean, there are people like that in the world that are like, you really think you're like that, you know. I've felt that way towards people somewhat before, not nearly to this extreme though, so the guy's gotta, like, calm down. And him being so drunk, he starts apologizing, being like, oh, Suzanne, because he feels like Suzanne's hot, so I thought he was gonna start hitting on her, and then he starts going into Timothy. Like, buzz off, man. Like, the crazy thing is, Rudius could destroy you in a fight, too. Like, he casts one spell and you're donezo. Not that that, like, means much, but, you know. Yeah. The whole, like, ultra agreeable nature, though, can get really annoying, because it's like, I know, like, there's something else going on beneath your surface, and you think you have such a good control on things, blah, blah, blah. This is just a crazy shot. Can you just look at this with me for a second? Quagmire is the only word on screen, and Rudius has got the most malicious, devilish little grin I've ever seen in my entire life. Sarah looks normal. Like, he's brewing. He's cooking up something. He looks, like, better here, but it's just, he's doing like this. Like, Rudius, he's doing Rudius, that's not, what are you doing? I'm kind of trolling, but yeah, I don't know, that's just funny. love seeing Rudy has taken actions to like, okay, let me beef myself up. Let me focus on like let me invest in myself a bit, right? Keep it up, self like let me pull myself together. I like that mentality. Combined with like let me help people, let me affirm myself through helping other people and through investing in myself. Bet. Good stuff, Rudy. I'm here for it. Helping children, whatever. It does make it look like it's crazy because he is like the whole like, oh, you're running away from your past, blah blah blah. But like if you're helping people, you're helping people, right? Like I still respect it. The whole Drake thing was just this guy being annoying. So real. Sarah getting lost, rip Mimir. Sarah Rudy chemistry obviously continuing to grow. I mean, they're both sitting there, freaking healing each other. I mean, okay, thank you, Rudius. I don't even think he's. I can't really tell if he's perving much. I mean, I guess he is a little bit, but like, not really. I don't know. He seems pretty focused. Like his eyes are moving up and down a little bit, but it's like, what would you like at that point? It's just okay. So I appreciate the Rudy move here. He was very diplomatic and normal about that. So hey, good stuff, Rudius. Good stuff, Rudius. That might even be some like. I feel like that might be some change actually. Not even gonna lie. And how he's like he's been burned so bad by the era stuff that it's like, yeah, his eyes will wander out of habit, but like he's not even. I'm not hearing any internal pervy dialogue. He's just kind of doing his job, trying to help this girl out. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean like it's still gonna like that doesn't mean it's not there. Like I feel like it's gonna come back. Yet or like just with eras, bro. The era stuff's gonna come back and it's gonna hit him like a truck. Well, not necessarily come back, but it's still there, right? It doesn't need to come back because it's still undercurrenting like all his decisions. I mean, we got a good amount of. I kind of want to hit this dialogue again. Let me hit this dialogue again, where he's like thinking. What am I doing? Is this supposed to make me feel better? Yeah. What would make me feel better? Is it like he just wants to be of use? Yeah. He says it himself. I just want to accomplish something. Maybe I just want to choose not to turn my back on someone the same way Eris turned her back on me. That's cool magic, by the way. That was a cool spell. I mean, that's a positive development, right? Like, oh, I know what it's like to be burned, so I'm going to help people not get burned. Like, I'm going to be there for people. And I like the self-analysis. Like, that's obviously good. Poor buffaloes just get destroyed. What will I do if I do find her? But you also, like Rudy, the thing is, like, and I think this is something that sounds kind of forehead, right? And I think he's working up to it. But, like, you need to like I think you want to be secure in yourself and happy in yourself and good in yourself, right? As opposed to just like, oh, like I am good because I am useful to other people. Like I have worth only because I'm useful to other people and only, that kind of thing. But I do think he's working in the right direction here. Especially with all that investing in himself and investing in community. I mean, those are just like kind of net wins for me. So I'm feeling pretty good about Rudy so far. I'm not going to be surprised if things take another turn for the worse. Sophie, when's Sophie going to hit the picture? It's been a few months. I wasn't expecting that, so that's cool. I'm curious if it's going to be that Rudy leaves for a reason or if Sophie enters and then that's his reason for leaving. Because I think, well, he's known as Quagmire. So I don't know if Sophie's going to hear Quagmire and then not have a response to that or not. And I don't know exactly the post credit scene in season 1. I don't remember exactly when when exactly that scene took place. In contrast to this, with months later. So, that's just kind of cooking in the back chamber, right? What's good, Sarah? Thanks for being nicer. That's cool. Rudy, hey, it's a work in progress. I'll shake your hand on it. We'll see where it goes. Good job investing in the community. I'll let it slide with the Holy Relic because it doesn't even for him. I mean, at this point, it's not even pervy, right? Like, it has like a pervy connotation or like undertone with the whole panty thing, but he's just like he's not doing anything with it. He's just kind of holding it with him as like a keepsake. I think it's a little odd, but I won't bash him for that one at this point. Not at all. But yeah. Clutch. Basically clutch. Rip Mimir. Rip Mimir. That's all I'll say on that. I kind of just want to jump into the next episode then, because we've had this nice little healing arc, or like chance for Rudy to kind of settle arc, which is a little crazy that Zenith is still in prison somewhere. Roxy, we gotta have our journey back across the demon. Roxy's inbound too. We gotta wait for Roxy to show back up. But yeah, it's kind of a dead end, which sucks for Rudy a little bit. And so for him to just spend this time healing in this town is a little bit of a move of like, okay, but Zenith, but also he's helping people and making moves, and he needs to be like somewhat secured in himself before he can make productive moves anyway. So I'm totally fine with it. It's just, let's and he even says himself like, oh, I'm putting my name out there. And other people are talking about like, yeah, I'm listening for your mother. So he's doing work in that direction too. So he's playing this pretty well right now. So Rudius win in this little town. It's been a nice little break from the pain and suffering, bro. Turning point 3. That's just a thing now. There's all these turning points. What's gonna happen to him? What a crazy monster is gonna show up and ruin things? Oh, Orsted, you're back in town. What's good with you? Hey, what's up? We'll see. But yeah, I think that's all I really got for this episode. Episode 2 of Mushoku Tensei, Jolly Reincarnation. On to the next episode 3 should be exciting. Of course. If you like the video, subscribe. If you're new, blah, 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 comment down below if you have anything to say, or join the Discord and talk to me other Mushoku Tensei fans there. I already said comment down below. Notification bell if you want a little ding, 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 ring, ding, ding, ring, ding, ding on any new uploads, new streams. You already know how it goes. But until then, the next episode, that's the graphic for this one. On to the next. I'll be seeing you then. Peace.